so good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Coders Night. I am your new host, Thomas Shell. Today we have Justin Lee. Justin, are you a senior or a junior?
I'm a junior at Troy High School.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm sure Justin has a very interesting project that has to do with neural networks. Neural networks is very important in artificial intelligence. However, the mechanism and the concept behind it is really complicated and hard to understand. But Justin developed two application websites to visualize and simplify those complicated concepts. So now let's welcome Justin. And the stage is all yours.
The project I want to talk about today is called Avis. And as you have heard, Thomas has said, it is related to neural networks. And as you can see from the slogan, the frontier technology simplified, this thing is about simplifying the current technology of neural networks. So a little about myself, who am I? So I am a junior 11th grader at Troy High School in Fullerton, if you know that school at all. I really like computer science, so I'm basically a CS nerd. I have a third grade level humor, so do expect some really bad humor and jokes right now. And I really like cats. And I also am really interested in artificial intelligence. I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Lemon Orange. You guys can subscribe to it if you want to. I do artificial intelligence stuff on there. I've uploaded like 2 YouTube videos about some of my current projects. It's pretty cool if you want to check it out. Okay, so let me get to the point. So what is Avis? So Avis is an online application that allows you to create and make neural networks, and it is designed to make AI easier to work with. With Avis, there is no downloads needed. You just need your browser because it all runs on the internet. There are no confusing layouts. The UI has been designed so that it's as easy to use as a chopstick or even a fork, right? There's no bad looking UIs. No, how do I use this component again? And months of research and designing makes this app one of my best looking apps so far. So why does this thing need to exist? Well, let me explain a little bit. So artificial intelligence has been growing in demand since its invention because of how much it can do. And it's increasingly useful because it can make discoveries that we can never make before. It has made breakthrough discoveries in fields like medical fields and engineering and a lot of other places. So what's the problem right now? Well, the current technology with AI is very complex. It requires a lot of maths like differential calculus, multivariable calculus, linear algebra, and a lot of stuff that I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't understand. So this limits a lot of people from getting to know this technology and actually use it for something useful. So a lot of people will just see this, and this is actually a real piece of code that you will be coding for making neural networks and artificial intelligence. A lot of people would just see this and say, no, this is too complicated. I'm not going to learn this. While in fact, it is actually, the concept itself is actually not that difficult, and it's actually really fun to learn. So how am I going to fix this problem? Well, I developed a new type of application I called Avis, and it creates neural networks. So as we have seen before, you need to basically write all of these weird code, all of these syntaxes to actually create a functional neural network that can train and be used. And that's the traditional method. So I took a look at that and I was like, no, this is way too complicated. Like, I'm not going to learn this if I was a beginner. So considering that I have a decent knowledge of neural networks now, I decided to say, scrap this. We're going to go with no code. We're going to say bye-bye to code. And then we're instead going to replace it with a visualizable layering neural network like you see everywhere on the internet. So now I'm going to show you a little demo about exactly what I'm talking about. So right here, you can see the homepage to our neural network application. As you can see, this is running directly in Firefox in my browser. You can check out the GitHub if you want to. Everything is open source there, and it's still being maintained. So if we click the Get Started button, we'll be greeted with this site or this page. So in the middle, we can see a neural network you can pretty much see this is a neural network. It's got layers, it's got lines connecting the layers, pretty much exactly what you're going to see when you Google the term neural network. So now this is going to be a lot more pleasing to a beginner because it's very understandable. It's really easy to understand and use. But how do we exactly customize it? Well, on the side here, you see we have a bunch of buttons. You have the train button, you have the test button, all this other stuff, and then you also have here add layer and remove layer. But say you're a complete beginner to this, and you don't know how to do this at all. You don't know what these do, right? You can always come down here, click the help button, and you see it says hover over the area of interest. So for example, if I don't know what this is, it'll tell me right there exactly what it is. So this is a layer. What is this thing? This is a progress bar. So it displays the progress of training and along with other things. So if we hover over this add layer, you can see it shows it adds a layer to the current neural network architecture. This removes a layer from the architecture. And then all the other stuff, I do have documentations and instructions on how to do it. When we click it again, we're back to the editing mode. So let's create a simple neural network, right? So let's just add some layers, right? And let's scroll on the layers so we can actually change the number of nodes in each layer. And as you can see, when we actually get too many nodes, so a lot of people, they like to add way too many nodes, right? It will actually warn you that too much layers in neuron can lead to performance loss, which is actually true in most cases, because more of these neurons means more computation, which means a slower training time and a slower, a worse, basically, reaction. And let's just create a simple, not completely blown up neural network here. So let's just do that kind of thing, right? And now that we have this neural network set it up here, how do we train it? How do we use it? Because like this thing is pretty useless if we can't train it or use it, right? So as you can see, we have the two buttons right here. It says upload input and upload labels. And if you know anything about neural networks and artificial intelligence in general, you know that they look at data, like big data, a lot of data. They take a look at that and they try to figure out patterns and just information that's embedded within the data and use the data that it learned to figure out new information on new data. So in this case, our input data is going to be the stuff it's going to be learning. So in this case, I've already prepared two files, which is the input and the output. And this particular input-output set tries to make the neural network learn if a black text or a white text is going to look best on a given background. So for example, if I give you like a red background, right? Is a white text or black text going to look better on the red background, right? So it's just going to determine that. It's really easy. Usually people will train MNS data set, which is just having a neural network recognize handwritten digits, but we're going to go even simpler in this case, just having it determine colors of stuff, right? So we have these, but we can still see that the train button is red. So it says invalid epoch. So we have to actually put something in these two little boxes for it to train. So the epochs is basically how many times the neural network is going to go through that data and try to figure out everything. So for example, if we put in like 30 epochs, it's just going to look over those data 30 times. It's going to loop over, take a look at it, learn it 30 times. And batch sizes is how much it's going to take a look at every single time. So every single time it's taking a look at the data, it's going to take a look at, for example, 10 data at a time, 100 data at a time, and so on. So I'll just do a moderate, like, let's say 20 for a batch size, right? So it's going to take a look at 20 data points every single time it's going to try to learn something. So after we put that in, we can see that the train button looks green. So we can press on that to start training. So when we press on that, the neural network is going to try to compile. And then after it has compiled, it's going to start training. But with Zoom in the background, it's going to train a little bit slow, but you can see it's actually working. So what this is displaying right here, the neural network loss, is pretty much just a figure for how well the neural network is doing at the data we have gave it. So a lower loss usually means a better performance. And as you can see, our loss is actually dropping right here, which is quite good, right? So we'll finish, we'll wait for that to finish. So after it has finished, we can see that the neural network loss has settled around like 0.6, right? Which is a decent score. It's not bad. Usually you want to aim for something even lower, but this is good for a demonstration. So after we've done training, we can see that the test button has lit green. So if we click it, we can see it has gave us an output. So it has gave us an input data it's going to try to feed into the neural network and a prediction on what it think the answer should be. So now if you remember, what the neural network is trying to do is trying to look at this color background and see if black text or white text is going to look best on that color background. So if we take a look at what color this is, right, it's this purplish weird color, right? And for the data setup, these two number right here, this is going to mean the probability of selecting black and the probability of selecting white. So like in this case, it's more leaning on white. It's liking white more. So more one means it likes it more. So if we take a look at the color, we can actually see it has some reasoning to it, right? White will look better on that for sure. If we test it again, we can see that it has gave us a new color and a new output. If we take a look at what color this is, this kind of dark color, right? And in this case, it's chosen the white color again. So it's doing quite well on these simple classifications, right? But let's say it's not doing so well. Let's say it's not doing so hot, and you want to change the neural network, do it again. Usually in code, you'll have to change your code, change the way you train all the code and everything. And that is really painful to debug sometimes. But in this case, in Avis, all you have to do is just like remove layer, right? So this made the neural network simpler. Say we want more neurons right here, we just scroll up. And there we go. We've created a much simpler neural network that looks better as well. So now if we just click train again, it'll start training again, and then we can take a look at the loss and see how well it does. So already it's starting lower than before, which is like 1 point something. But as you can see, it's going down slower as well. So from the simple 2 training that I have done so far, we can see that you can see the performance of the neural network very clearly, and you can see the type of performance that matches the type of architecture used. So this thing is really good for education. So say you want to learn about neural networks, this is really good for that. And this is also really good for testing when you want to test the new types of architectures. So for example, this right here, this might not perform so well because I see they're both kind of leaning towards black and white. Maybe it's not so sure about it. So maybe this type of model isn't so great for the application we're doing. So we got to change something, right? We can experiment with it. We can do whatever we want with it, and we can just train over and over and over again. So this increases the productivity of your AI workflow, and this makes everything a lot simpler for people like beginners and even, seasoned developers, right? And there's even more stuff you can change. So for example, like the output activation, which I'm not going to get into the math of it, but basically you change it depending on the type of output you're using. But you can actually change a lot of things about this neural network. So back to the slides. It's actually a pretty simple application, as you could see. So what kind of future plans and what kind of future features should I add to this, application, right? So first off, it's the support for more layers, because right now it only has support for normal dense layers. And as we know, not all neural networks are dense layers. Some image processing, they have convolution layers. They have way more complicated layers than just neurons in a row or in a column, right? So more support for layers, that's definitely a plan in the future. Change of UI for more scalability. As you can see right now, the UI, it's kind of just like this one menu right here, right? So I'm planning to just add more menus, just add, make it more expandable, make it, more user-friendly, make it, you can add more stuff, you can configure more stuff easier. Right now, it's just this one menu is kind of limiting. So that's what I'm planning to do in the future. You also have increased training performance, which, as we can see, it was training pretty slowly because everything was training on my front end. And in the future, I might rent or buy a server to train this on, but right now I don't have the budget. So everything has to be trained on the user's end. And that's it. Thank you for attending. Thank you for listening. Again, I do have a YouTube channel. I have more stuff over there if you want to check it out. And yeah, that's it. That's Avis. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin. I'm sure that the audience has a lot of questions about your application. So I'll turn on chat. Also, could you explain a little bit about like how you were able to make this app happen, like the difficulties that you've gone through?
So to make this thing, as I said before, it's just a website. It's like any other website. It's like Google that you used. The hardest part, I guess, first off, it's the UI. It's making the user interface as user friendly and easy to use as possible. And the second thing is to actually get all the data partitioned to actually fit real life applications where you would be working with neural networks, because usually you won't be mixing training data with testing data. So I actually had to partition them to a certain scheme so it doesn't mix it up, so that the users can actually see real performance instead of fake performance. And another hard part, I guess, is to just to have the front end and the back end just like communicating, because at the end of the day, what you're configuring is a bunch of HTML elements on the screen, and you want to be able to port those things into the JavaScript files where it will then compile the neural network in TensorFlow and actually run it. So that was particularly interesting because I have to make everything from the scratch as well. Okay, so I see someone saying, can I put the link in the chat? Yes, I can. I will send you it right now. All right, so this is the link to the program. You can play around with it. I will also send you guys the input and output file so you can try out for yourself. So let me find where it is. Okay, let me upload the file. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think Devin has his hand raised. Sorry.
Okay, Devin?
Yeah, are you planning to have a crowdfunding campaign for more funding and budgets?
Sorry, what?
Are you planning to have a Kickstarter campaign for this? Because that looks really interesting.
Kickstarter, I mean, I wouldn't like to because I'm tight on budget right now. But yeah. I am a big enthusiast of the so-called free license software, and for I do have the license under GPL. That means I can sell it, but because I want to make this accessible to everyone, I don't want to make this a paid program. I want everyone to be able to take this opportunity and learn about the great world of artificial intelligence as like a stepping stone. So I don't want to make this thing paid, even though I want to. So yeah. And probably, and because of that, probably no Kickstarter. So
yeah, good job. Yeah, nice plan as well. Nice UI too.
Any other questions?
Okay, so Justin, a very good project, very interesting. So what is your motivation or kind of like the story of creating this website? So it's like making more people understand artificial intelligence.
So I mean, the story behind this is it's kind of personal, but it's when I actually started learning neural networks, and it was really difficult because I had to search up YouTube tutorials, and those things are usually aimed at people who already have a basis in calculus or linear algebra or whatever, right? And those things you usually have to watch a lot of times to actually understand the concept completely, and it's fairly difficult to experiment with it because you don't know what you're doing with code. So I want to make this as kind of like an experiment where everyone can just play with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see. Nice. Okay. When did you start coding? When did you start to learn coding?
I'm sorry, what?
When did you start to first learn artificial intelligence or coding?
Oh, for coding, if I'm just talking about like just coding programming languages, I'm gonna say it's about 6 years ago. That's when I started. I started with doing Java, but then I moved on to I think it's JavaScript and the HTML, CSS, and so on. When did I start learning artificial intelligence? I think that was just like 2 years ago. It was pretty early. It's like the start of high school because I thought it was really interesting subject to learn, and I kind of want to pursue a career in it. So that's why I got into it.
Very nice, Justin. Very good and interesting project. I see Devin has another question. So
yeah,
I was curious at how you implemented the UI.
Oh, just custom HTML and a lot of CSS.
Custom CSS as well?
Yeah, everything custom because I didn't trust things like Bootstrap or Tailwind.
Nice.
All right, is that it? All right, is there more questions?
I saw that you uploaded the output file.
Yeah.
What do we put for the labels?
So output is essentially it's the same thing as label. So output equals label. So the X is the input, labels is the output.
Okay, and then for the input, what do we put in there?
The X.csv.
Okay, so we have to like create our own input.
No, I sent the files in chat. You guys see it?
Okay, got it. I see.
Yeah, and also just a reminder, because this is something you have to do in neural networks as well. The X input has a shape of 3. That means your input shape, that the red neurons, that column has to have a neuron count of 3. So anything other than that, it will tell you the input shape is invalid and you have to try again. The output shape, same thing. The output is 2. So make sure that the output layer has 2 neurons and not anything else. If it's not, it will refuse to train because it won't compile. Okay.
Oh, another question popped into play. I have another question. So, so you have like this. You said the set of number of input and output. So if we have like our own files, like any number is fine, right?
Yes, any number is fine. Currently, I only like for simplicity's sake, I only like supported a SCV, as CSV because that was the simplest to parse and implement. But in the future, I might do JSON. I might do more commonly used files. But like as long as you have a matching input and output shape, and there's data size is consistent, yes, you can train it on anything.
Okay, very nice. Okay.
And then, sorry, how do you add nodes again? Like the amount of nodes?
You scroll on the layers. It's kind of unintuitive. That's why I'm deciding to change that as well.
Got it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's also it's also in the help menu. So if you don't know how to do something, you can always click the help and hover over it.
Oh wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, the help actually took me the very long time to implement for all of those.
Interesting. Okay, I think if no one else has any questions, thank you, Justin, for presenting. That was a really cool project. And let's see, Thomas, do you want to do outro?
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining today. I'm sure you guys learned a lot and actually get that the neural networking, you have a visualization. I hope it's not that hard, and I hope that everyone enjoyed. And of course, good job, Justin. Very interesting project. And then let's see. We will see you guys next week. All right. Have a good weekend. Good week.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Okay, bye.